All right, so we're back. We're back from break. Just recap, we did a context level diagram here, right? And this context level diagram shows the system view. So this is a context diagram. And this shows the system view, okay? The system view. And it's really just like an overview of the entire system so that you're able to see basically so that you're able to see basically what you call this thing, what the systems are. The just all it does is that it shows the inputs and the outputs of the system, okay, as it relates to the external entities. This doesn't give any sort of insight as to what goes on in the system itself. So all we know is that if we're looking at any system, we could look at a bank system. You as a bank customer, what do? Right? You give information to your bank, you fill out a slip on how much money you want to deposit or how much money you want to withdraw. And then the bank will give you a receipt based on the transaction. In terms of the banking side, which really and truly is here, right? If we were talking about a bank, we don't know what's going on in the bank. What are the bank's processes? We could then go on to the next level, which is the first level diagram, right? To break up or show what exactly goes on inside of this online shopping system. And this is where now we're going to break up everything and see, well, what the system is really like. Okay? So, oops, sorry. We have our online shopping system, we have our customers, and we're going to take it from there. So now this is going to be our level 1, right? So our level 1 diagram, where we have our customer, and the customer really and truly just puts their order information into the system. Okay? So what happens now when their order info goes into the system? The order info goes into the system and it goes to a process, right? So one order collection process. And this order collection process might just simply be used to store in a database, right? Order database, right? So customer order info. This customer order information, once it is stored, right, for processing, could then go to let's say a warehouse check process. Warehouse check process. So we take the customer orders and what do we do with it? We check our stock database. Okay? We check our stock database. And so we send a request, right, on the order item, check, and the order item levels. Okay, so we have our order item check and our order item levels. Let me write that over so that it's understandable. And what do we do when we have the order item check and the order item levels? Right? Once we get whether or not it's in the database, we could move forward and depending on if it is in stock, right? Order items approval. Okay, we could now go to order processing and delivery process, right? Or let's just call it order delivery process. Order delivery process. Okay, so our order delivery process is going to prepare the delivery information and send that delivery information back to the customer, right? So this is our delivery info, delivery information. But what about, this our original diagram here didn't say anything about if it didn't have it in stock. But what about if it didn't have it in stock? What would happen, right? Order items unavailability. AVAILBILITY, right? Maybe we might have a notification process. And that notification process will send a message to the customer that says the order item unavailable. Unavailability notice. Okay? And in both cases, whether it's unavailable or available, you might want to update the database here. You might want to update the database here. Right? And of course, once your order delivery went through, you might want to update the database here as well. I don't want to really cross lines, but I guess I have no choice but to cross lines. Right? So you'll update both your stock database and your order database, right? Update database information. Okay, so what goes on here? Now we have something inside of this one that we did not initially have across here. We have the notification coming back to the unavailability notification. So that might be something, and I'm taking off this no physical items note here. But what you might want to do is you might want to just simply add as well, right? On AVILBILITY. That feels longer than it means. Unavailability. Oh no, it's correct. All right. Not info notice. We have our unavailability notice coming as well. So it's either you get your delivery information or your unavailability notice coming to you. And this is when we break down the system to see what processes are involved. Now notice that this doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Eh? This goes 1, 2, and then is either 3 or 4. So it is not a flow chart. This is not a flow chart. This is a data flow diagram. This is what happens. This route here is what happens when the order is in stock. And this route here is what happens when the order is not in stock. Any questions?
So, instead of looping back those two processes back to customer, can't you create a separate another entity right below there instead of going all the way back?
Yeah. You could do that. It would be the same entity. Right? So instead of drawing these big dirty lines that I did, you could probably just put my customer down here, and it's going to be, the customer up here is going to be the same one that you would have drawn down there if you decided to go that route. Yes. Any other questions?
So we have to draw diagrams like this for exams.
Yes. And for your SV. Any more questions?
These are all complex ones. They're all complex.
Well, this is about as complex as it's going to be. It's not too complex, and I think my handwriting does not make it any better. But I mean, when we use a tool, probably such as draw.io, it would make it easier.
Sir, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I end up disconnected from the call.
Oh,
Can you repeat that?
what did you not hear? What was the last thing you didn't hear?
After I asked the question, I just didn't hear anything after that.
Okay, your question was with the customer being down in the corner here?
Yeah.
Yes, you could do that.
Okay.
David?
Yes, sir. And the context level I made on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
the way how it is you did add in the unavailability notice, you could have two names for flow for data flow.
Yeah. You could have two sets of data on a flow line, yes.
Oh,
All right. So like sometimes in some examples when you all see it, say like for instance, if you have somebody interacting with a system, right? Let's say you have a patron for a library or something, so a customer. You might see something like name, comma, address, comma, phone number. You might see it written like that. Or if you want to be more general, because that could get cumbersome, you could put like personal info, and then book request. Right? So if this is a library system. Okay? That's a L, not a H. Right? Hazard.
Yes, so we have to learn the different type of systems too.
What you mean you have to learn the different types of systems?
Well, let's see, just give us a short example of a library system, like how a teacher will get information from it.
We will have, it's not to learn per se. It's to think through and be able to think through and to be able to develop. So you have to be able, so chances are, and I will pull an example from a K-PASS paper in a little bit. You're going to be given a scenario, and we have to draw a context level diagram or a DFD for that particular scenario.
All right, so
All right, which is what I want to pull up right now. So give me a second. Let me just copy and paste this in so that I can, you could soak this in, think about it for a little while, and I'm going to paste in shortly a past paper question, a DFD past paper question, and we would do it, right? And you're almost guaranteed to get a past paper question, sorry, a DFD and a ERD in almost every year. I think every year they bring it. And those questions are normally between 10 to 15 marks. So those questions are normally about 6 to 10% of your exam paper. All right, so this is something that we must know. Yeah, that we must know and we must be, pretty comfortable with. All right, so I'm going to pull 2011 and we'll have a DFD question here. Let me just make sure that is not a too difficult one. No, this one was wicked. 2010. Let me check. Right. Right. So this one is a little simpler, and we're going to draw both the right. Yes. So actually the wording of the computer science one, the wording of the computer science one separates level 0 from the context level diagram. Because if you look at this one is 14 marks. This one is 14 marks and it's asking you to draw a level 0 diagram. But really and truly, it's asking you to draw a first level diagram. Okay, hold on now. Let me just plug in my computer for a second. Battery's about to die. Oops. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have this question here. I'm going to zoom in so that we can read it. Maybe somebody could read it for me. Sometimes I might be tired of hearing my voice over and over. So feel free to read it. Anybody? Thanks.
The hiring process of so you okay?
Yes, I was saying yes. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay. The hiring process of a certain organization after a vacancy is advertised is as follows. Applications are accepted from interested persons and stored in a file. An acknowledgement letter is sent to each applicant indicating that his or her application has been received. At a later date, the applicants are retrieved from the file, examined, and eligible applicants are selected for an interview. The selected applicants are informed of the date and time of the interviews. After the interviews are held, the successful applicant's data is moved to the personnel file, since this person will now be an employee of the organization. Finally, letters are sent to each applicant informing him or her of the outcome of the application. Draw a level 0 data flow diagram to represent the scenario.
Thank you. So they have the level 0 diagram. They're requesting that of us. And what we're going to get is that we are going to get we actually have to draw a detailed diagram. 14 marks, that means that they want the first level diagram. Okay? So just watch. For a couple of years, Cape had some word in here that was a little off. But what I would suggest that we do is that we do draw the context level diagram, right? What I do suggest that we do is that we draw the context level diagram so that we can understand the way in which the system should work. So let's let me duplicate this page before I go drawing up on it, right? Because I'll have one page with the level 1 and the level 0, and the other page with the context. Okay, so we're going to do the context now. What are our external entities? And what is the system? What is this? What is this the system, and what are our external entities? I think we should start there. Or who are our external entities, maybe I should say.
The people interested, who are interested.
Right. So the applicant is an external entity, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So what does this applicant send? So our entities are in yellow, right? And maybe the data that they're putting into the system and the data coming out of the system could be in red and blue respectively. So what information is being put into the system? Right? Let me make this yellow. Interested persons is yellow. What do these? Yes. So the application is an input to the system. Anything else is an input to the system? Right? No, I don't think so. So what are some outputs of the system? The outputs are in blue.
Acknowledgement.
Right. So we have an acknowledgement letter. What else?
The date and time for the interview.
Right. So we have the information of the date and the time of the interview. And anything else comes out of the system?
An acceptance letter.
Right. So the letter sent to each applicant informing him or her of the outcome of the application. Okay. So let me just put a blue dot here, a red dot here, and a yellow dot here. And we could see that the blues are outputs. End up writing in red, but I don't really like writing in red. All right.
So
Right.
the applicant's data move into a personal file wouldn't be an output? Well,
no, because that is within the system.
Oh, okay.
Right? These are entities. Sorry, these are inputs. All right, so these are inputs, and these are entities. So that's our little legend there. When we draw in the system now, what would be an appropriate name for the system?
So when you say entities, what do you mean also?
The entities are the external entities, the person on the outside who is interacting with the system. What is this craziness that is going on with my drawing tablet? Okay. All right, good. So yeah, so what is a good name for this system?
The application receiver process.
The what process? Not process, but this is the system we're looking at.
So well, I was thinking the application like receiver system, because you have to send back like the letter stating that the application is received and the application itself have to be stored in the file.
Right. Okay. So we could just name it the HR application job application system, right? That's good. We know that our entities are represented in boxes outside. This is the context diagram. Okay. This is the context diagram. So this is our applicant. And what information did they put into the system? They put an application, right? So they put in a job application. So we have, according to what we looked at, we have so far, we've identified the external entities and we've identified the what you call this thing? The inputs to the system. Coming out of the system back to the applicant, we have a set of data that should come back out, right? That's not a straight line. We're gonna have problems writing on that. So coming out of the system, we will, the selected applicants get their interview date information, and they also get a letter on the status, right? Letter, right, on application response. And this is what comes out of the system. So if I'm looking at this system as a whole, just from the outside, right? And nobody could have told me my big head blocking the thing that I was drawing. This is what the system is going to look like to somebody who does not know the inner workings of the system. We call this a context diagram because this puts the general interaction with the system in context. Now, if we go back to the previous example here, okay, if you look at all of this part here, right, all of this is the same system that was here. This was the online shopping system. Okay, so this here is the online shopping system. And what we did was that we just kind of went into it, because if you look at what goes in and what comes out, it's the same thing going in and coming out for this system, right? But once you get into the meat of the matter of what is inside here, then that's the same thing that is inside here. So that's what we're looking to do now for this. We are now looking to break this into a series of processes that will tell us, well, what really the job application system entails. Okay, we're gonna go through it quickly because we don't have much time, right? Hopefully we could do this in about 7 minutes so that I could take about 5 minutes for questions at the end of class. But we're taking the same approach. We have the applicant. If now we're doing the DFD breakdown, and the applicant will send in their application. And what did they say was the first thing that that we get? right, from a process. So this first process collects the applications, right? So application collection process. And that's something I forgot to put here because we also have to put our acknowledgement letter. Everybody got an acknowledgement letter in the beginning. That's what they said here. An acknowledgement letter is sent to each applicant. So this process sends back an acknowledgement letter. That their application has been received. This applications are retrieved from the file. So this process will also store information into an application file. And they say at a later date, the applications are retrieved from the file, examined, and eligible applications are selected for an interview. So what does that tell me that process does? This is the interview selection process. Right? I hope I give myself enough space to write there. Interview selection process. And what are these? These are the applicants. Applicants, L-I-C-E-N-T, applicant files. And those applicant files are pulled from the application file database for the interview selection process. And so in the interview selection process, what happens? If it is that the selected applicants are informed of the date and time of their interviews, right? The applications are retrieved from the file, examined, and eligible applications are selected for an interview. So what does this mean? It means that we push information into the interview process, right? Interview process, right? And this eligible, right? ELIGIBLE applications. Eligible applications are carried into the interview process. And these eligible applicants are also informed of the, well, let me do what what was asked about. You could put an applicant here. And you could see that this person gets the date / time of interview. Okay? And the eligible applications are sent to the interview process. Now, they don't tell us too much about the interview process as well, but they say after the interviews are held, the successful applicant's data is moved to the personnel file. So we know that this interview process will generate, based upon the information of the eligible applicants, it will store some information into a personnel file. So this is a second, a personnel file, right? Successful applicants information. All right. Are you all hearing me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. I know I dropped off there just now. Hazard's prediction came to pass about my internet, right? I want to change anyway. Let me not go off on a tangent. I want to change the wireless card in this laptop that I have here. I need to get the Intel wireless card. I find Broadcom is it's gone again. Okay, I dropped again. Yeah. All right. So you're back with me. You all follow me. Did you all miss anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So we have the successful applicant's information moving into the personnel file. That's what they said. Right. And since this person will now be an employee of the organization. Finally, letters are sent to each applicant informing him or her the outcome of All right. So this is the last thing. Both the interview process and the interview selection process can send information to the notification process and the interview selection process will send the ineligible applicants information to here. And the interview process will send the unsuccessful interviewees information into this process. David, you had a question?
No, so that was an accident.
Oh, okay. Right, unsuccessful interviewee app information into the notification process, and everybody, right, or actually not just the unsuccessful applicants, because they say letters are sent to each applicant. So not just the unsuccessful applicants, but all the interviewees get interviewee result information. So let's change that, right? Interview result information. So we could say is the interview result information gets sent to the notification process, and the applicant gets informed via a letter. What does this letter contain? Right? It's an outcome letter. Outcome letter for application. Okay, so your outcome could be that you were successful in the interview. Your outcome could be that you weren't successful in the interview. Your outcome could be that you were an ineligible applicant. And this now is the entire HR system, because we could see that the inputs and the outputs from the context diagram match the inputs and the outputs from the data flow diagram here. And that is important. You cannot have different inputs and outputs on each one of the two diagrams. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. Any questions? I know that you guys probably always say, "Wait, boy, ComSci class does always end up being some intense something that we're doing." But this really isn't that bad, right? And data flow diagrams could get huge for larger systems. And we don't go past this first level here. So this is where we are at for our SBA and for our exams. All right, so we just have to know how to display the context level and to display this first level diagram.
So I know you said that that is the way that you learned it with the circle, right? But in exams, if this we do it with the process box, they would mark it
with like a big process box here.
Yeah. Would they mark it with?
They would no, they wouldn't mark you down. They should not mark
Okay.
you down. Right? But I'm just more comfortable with this way. So this is how I'll teach, and this is how I'll encourage you all to do it for ComSci. Do not. I know that you have a different way that you do it for IT. Do not, if you choose one way, I would say it could be allowed for ComSci, but I would not tell you, if you like the way that it's done in ComSci, to do it in IT if your IT teacher tell you to do it another way. Yes, Hazard.
So those are the boxes, right? The boxes you have labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have to use those diagrams or those boxes for processes.
I would recommend these, yes.
Okay, and the rectangular boxes for storing
Entities.
things.
The open rectangle is for storage, and the closed rectangle is for entities. And every arrow must have annotation on it. Okay. Any more questions?
No, sir.
All right. All right, so I'm going to stop recording at this point.